This is a production of KMmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show... And welcome to Positive Talk Radio. My name is Kevin McDonald. Now, I know that you know that we like to talk to a bunch of different coaches and people like that. Today, we've got a very special one because we're going to talk about a subject that a lot of people are scared of and don't really know how to deal with, and that's money. And before we go there, we're going to talk about Eric, who's got all kinds of money. He's a rich guy over there. How are you, Eric?
I wish, but from your lips to God's ears.
You're going to be famously wealthy one day, and being a musician the way you are, the things that you do, you're going to be awesome.
I think that's the case for me not being wealthy, being a musician. But hey, I'll take those positive thoughts.
Yes,
that's what the show is all about every day, is positive thoughts. So and positive talk, of course.
Exactly. And by the way, just so everybody knows, I will be talking more about this, but on the 3rd of November, unless something's gone wrong, there's a new album coming out that I'm going to touch bases with Eric later on in the week, just so that he has a little moment, because I've known him for 20 years. He's a fabulous gentleman, and I'm very excited for him that this is coming out.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. You're welcome very much. We've got a great show for you today, and we're going to be talking about the thing that is so intimidating for most people, and that is money, how to manage it, how to deal with it, and how to live your life and feel confident in what you're doing. And we have a great guest for you today. Her name is Patti Handy, and she is a financial coach for women. She spent 20 years as a financial advisor, a mortgage advisor. She's worked as an executive coach, a certified life coach. She holds a real estate broker's license, and she's also an author. She's published 4 different books. And in full disclosure, she's also a chocoholic. So, hi, Patti. How are you?
Hello, Kevin. Great. Thank you. How are you doing?
Just great. Thank you very much. And I also like my chocolate a little bit, but I'm too cheap. I don't buy the good stuff. Do you buy the good stuff?
Sometimes I splurge. Yeah, regular. It's the grocery store stuff. But I love my See's candy. I love my Godiva. But I try to keep it in moderation because it can be dangerous.
Exactly. I'm excited to talk to you today because we have a lot of women in our audience that are either fall into one of these categories. They're either divorced, or they're widowed, or they are single by choice. And oftentimes when you are out there trying to figure it all out by yourself, and how money works and how best to utilize it so that you can plan for your retirement and do all the kinds of things that you really would like to do so you can live your life to its fullest extent. You do that, and you're also a life coach for people. You help them live their lives just a little bit better. So thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. So first off, I've got to ask, what instrument does he play?
Oh, he plays guitar, he writes, and he sings.
Nice. I need to hear some of that, but okay, I digress. I was listening to you in the introduction. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to know what he plays.
Exactly, and it's not very often that you have an album coming out, because he also is the producer of the album, and so it's really is quite a feat, and a financial feat at that, to get all that done, because it can be expensive to put out an album.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. That's great.
Me too. Me too. So when we talk about, and I specifically, and I hate to put this into gender terms, but it seems to me, and I can only speak about women that I've known throughout my life, and that is a lot of times they defer to the man in their life to take care of the money and to make sure that it's all going in the right places and stuff. But when that is no longer an option, it can be really intimidating to work with money, can't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's the common theme that I hear over and over, and I heard this both when I was a financial advisor and as a mortgage advisor. And it is, my husband took care of the money. I don't know what I'm doing. And now that he's gone, whether it's by divorce or loss, I'm overwhelmed. I'm embarrassed. There's a lot of fear, and it's just uh, the paralysis of I don't know even where to start. And yeah, I just really have a passion to make sure that we empower these ladies with the financial knowledge they need, and that they just feel comfortable talking about it and managing it and investing it. It's not this taboo subject, and I think it's just so uncomfortable because they generally haven't done it before. But once they learn the mechanics of it, it's actually pretty easy. It's not all that complicated, truly.
It can be, but if you like go to a I have T. Rowe Price is one of the places where I have my money, and you get on there and you look at their things, and then they come up with all kinds of terms that you have no earthly idea what they mean,
Yeah,
and so it can be very intimidating from that point of view. And once you know it's kind of like being a lawyer. I think once you know the jargon, then it's easier to figure it out. But a lot of times we shut down because we're not. It seems so complicated and so difficult to understand. And at least that's been in my world. Is that kind of in your world too?
when like with anything, if you weren't taught it, if you didn't learn it in school, if you didn't learn it at home, and you're suddenly introduced to this topic, it's going to be overwhelming. Yes, there's going to be a lot of new lingo that you hear and jargon thrown around. There's a multitude of funds you can invest in, and there's all uh, the online noise, the news noise, and it's just, yes, it could be too much. But if you break it down into just understanding some of the simple, um, common terms and how it plays into your world, and then look at the various ways you can invest in the market. And once you understand and you learn some of those simple mechanics, it really is simple. You don't have to get involved or invested in all the products and understand all the various pieces of all the products. You don't need to know all the mechanics of how the market works. I mean, that's what the professionals are for, right? It's about choosing some of the funds that make the most sense for you, given your timeline to whatever your goals, your dreams, your risk tolerance, everything else, and then just staying true to your course. But there is a learning curve at the beginning. There is a part of, okay, I need to understand what a mutual fund is, what a index fund is, and the difference between those two. Um, an ETF, which is an exchange traded fund, and I'm throwing some lingo around simply to say, okay, there's three different types of funds that I just mentioned. What's the difference between them? And so it's about just gaining that knowledge, learning that, and then you're like, okay, now I know it. Now I get it. So even if you do decide to work with a financial advisor, or if you decide to self-manage your assets, you know what that is. And so when someone's talking to you, you can just feel more empowered and understand what that really addresses.
One of the things that I have always found really bizarre to me is that we go through school, we go through high school and sometimes college, and nobody ever talks about things like how to manage your life, like how to balance your checkbook. What
Hmm.
is a checkbook? What what do
Yeah.
you know what goes into savings? What goes into checking and all of it can be confusing for folks if they don't understand, and
Yeah.
credit card interest and compound interest and all of those
Right.
terms that they throw about that can
Right.
be very, very destructive to your financial health if you don't understand them, right?
Oh, 100%. I would love to see financial literacy taught at the core curriculum level in high schools and in college for sure. The good news is that we are seeing some of that start to kind of trickle into the schools, which is great. But there are so many life skills, on that subject, life skills that are necessary to really empower kids to come out of college or high school feeling like they understand just life. I mean, like how to interview, how to shake a hand, how to make eye contact, how to deal with somebody who's angry, how to deal with, a colleague who is emotionally charged or whatever. There's so many things in life that we aren't taught how to handle that would be, gosh, just so instrumental in our ability to just do better in our work life, our personal life, and everything. And of course, the financial piece for sure. But yes, I 100% agree.
And I can only speak from my own experience and my kids' experiences and stuff, because when I was growing up, credit was a different thing than it is now.
Mhm.
And um my sons easily can go get a credit card and can go get 2 credit cards or 3 credit cards. And they you nowadays you can walk into a department store, and they'll say, "Well, you get 10% off today's purchase if you buy this credit card, or if you put it on your credit card and stuff."
Right,
But
right,
they don't tell you the nuts and bolts of how that actually works. So
right.
it's like my one of my kids came to me and said, "I got this credit card. It's great, and it's only $25 a month."
Oh my gosh. The
And,
minimum payment, you mean, or the fee?
well, it's not the fee, but
The minimum
the
payment?
minimum payment
Okay.
was for what he bought, and he
Oh,
bought several $100 worth of stuff,
oh dear.
and it was well, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was that the
Go ahead.
minimum payment is so low, it's $25 a month. So why not put a little bit more on there and a little bit more, and then it goes to 35 and then 45. And I said, I hate to break it to you, but it's going to take you 10 years to pay that off, and you're going to end up paying more in interest than the principal of what you actually bought. And it was like, what? So, could you talk about the credit cards a little bit and how best to utilize them?
Yeah, credit cards, if we can teach our kids how to use them and what that means, it's gonna be, oh my gosh, such a game changer. So first of all, most of us don't even know what interest rate our cards are charging us. And if you're paying your card off in full every single month, which is like the ideal, obviously the ideal situation, the interest rate doesn't matter because you're paying it off, in full and you don't get charged interest. But if you're carrying any kind of balance, that interest rate, which is 20, 25%, sometimes more depending upon your credit score, is being added to that balance. So if you find this super duper sale for a laptop of $1,000, it's normally a $2,000 laptop, and you're making the minimum payment only, that laptop's going to cost you a lot more than $2,000 over time if you just make that minimum payment, and it will take you many many years to pay that off. And we know that we always add to our credit card balances, so that minimum payment goes even higher. So yes, we have to sit down with, and they should make this a requirement where they sit down with the person who is taking the card out and understand the power of compounding interest and how it works against you when it comes to the credit cards, because it works for you when you're investing money, but that same negative works against you when it's working in a situation where you're carrying a credit card balance. So it is absolutely critical to understand the mechanics of that interest over time and how that can backfire. And if they understood the interest rate was 20, 25%, they would go, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. I will not do that. So yes, however, let me do a caveat to that. It is absolutely important to understand that you need credit to build credit, and you need a good credit score to buy a house, buy a car, have anything on credit. So you do have to have credit, but if you have, if you're using it poorly and you have a bad credit score, well, that doesn't help anyone, right? That only hurts you. So, and your credit score, that's a whole other topic we can talk for an hour on. That's your report card to the world. If you have a poor credit score, you're going to get terrible interest rates on your home, your car, I mean, if you go to, um, rent an apartment, they're going to pull your credit. Some employers pull credit. Every employer that I've had, I've been in the financial world for many, many years. They pulled my credit because if I can't manage my own credit, I can't manage a client's, right? So, um, Yeah, the credit score is huge. So you've got to have credit to have a credit score, and you've got to manage that credit well. And part of that is knowing how to work with your credit card.
Let me see if I understand this correctly, and then you can fix any errors that I'm liable to say.
Okay. Okay.
Which is, if you pay everything cash, and you happen to have a good enough job where you don't ever need a credit card, you don't get a credit card, your credit score is going to be fairly low because you're not using any credit. They have nothing to compare you to of somebody who is using credit. But if you do if you decide, I'm going to go get a couple of credit cards, and then you decide, well, I'm a little short this month, or we want to go out to this really nice place to dinner, and it's a little bit more than you anticipated, a couple of drinks too many, all that kind of. So you say, well, I'd rather not take this out of my checking account, so I'll go ahead and put it on the credit card, and then I'll pay it off at the end of the month. The end of the month comes, and you're like, well, I'm a little short. I'll just make the minimum payment. So many of these go on,
Mhm.
then you can have a lot of credit, but what affects your credit score is the amount of credit you use versus the total credit available to you. Am I right so far?
Yeah. So uh, there's a few points that you made. So you have to have credit, and that doesn't mean outstanding balances. That means that you've got credit available to you. So you've got a credit card like a Visa or Mastercard with, say, a $5,000 credit limit. That's having credit. Now, if you use the card and you don't pay it off in full, then you are tapping into what's called a utilization ratio. So the utilization ratio is the difference, or the I should say that, not the difference. It's the amount that you have outstanding on the card divided by the total outstanding line available to you. So if you've got $1,000 that you have on your credit card as a balance, and your credit line is 5,000, that 1,000 divided by 5,000, that's your utilization ratio. The credit bureaus like to see your credit utilization ratio under 25%. And if you start to creep up over 25%, your score is going to be impacted and it's going to go down. So the credit bureaus are going, ooh, this person's putting more on credit. There must be something happening in their life where they need to pull more credit out. That's a red flag. So your credit score is going to go down. Now, if you use and pay in full, which is one of the first things I tell people how to build credit, is use your card and pay your gas on it. Everyone uses gas in their car, right? Well, today there's electricity, but if you need gas in your car every single month or week, whatever, you put gas and you charge it and you pay it off. That's actually showing the credit bureaus that you're responsible with your credit. So you can use that credit as a way of going, look, I'm responsible with my money. I can use and pay in full. And the type of credit is also very important. The credit bureaus don't love the department stores. They don't like to see a bunch of cards that are all department stores on your credit report. They like a mortgage, of course. They like to see installment loans, like a car payment of sorts or a student loan, and then a couple good credit cards like a Visa, Mastercard, American Express, Discover. They don't love seeing all those other various kinds of credit, like the furniture stores that say, "Oh, buy your couch and zero interest for 2 years," and then that actually hurts your score. So try to stay away from that. And there's all kinds of fine print with those situations as well.
Well, one of which is, oh, don't worry about it. You can buy these windows for your house, and you don't have to pay us anything for 18 months. However, they accrue interest
Yeah,
from the time you make the purchase. So if you don't pay it off in 18 months, they then add all of that interest to your loan. Am I correct in that?
that's correct. That's correct. That is why I say watch the fine print. So the unless there's some nuances within individual stores, for the most part, yes, they are accumulating interest from day one. And if you don't pay it off before that time period's up, they're going to slap you with that payment, and you're going to go, wait a minute, where did all this interest come from? And that's the fine print. And that's why I say try to stay away from those.
And that can be substantial because what they tell you is it's a 0% interest rate for 18 months. but they don't tell you that the regular interest rate is 24%. And that's what they're going to add to your outstanding balance at the
Right.
end of 18 months, which could actually double the amount of your loan.
It's crazy. It's crazy. That's why you've got to do your due diligence. You've got to make sure you ask the questions, understand the nuances of whatever it is that you're buying, and absolutely positively make sure you pay that thing off well before the 18 months. Don't wait to the last minute. Get that thing paid off as quickly as possible. And if you don't think you can pay it off in 18 months, you just can't buy it. I mean, it's really that simple, unless it's like a new tire for your car because you have no choice, but they don't do that for tires. But the point is, you've got to make sure that you understand the fine print of what it is you're purchasing when it comes to credit.
By the way, we are talking with Patti Handy, and go to pattyhandy.com and you can talk to her. She's got a couple of money programs that you can access. She's got a free ebook that you can get, and it's all designed to make the uh, the minefield and the mystery of money disappear.
Yes,
So,
yes.
and
They're going.
that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I think that this can be, well, heck, I've known people that have repeated the same mistakes and then had to go into bankruptcy
Mm,
more than one time,
mhm.
which is horrible, and you never get out of that.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of that really comes from, or stems from, I should say, the our money mindset and our relationship with money and how we perceive money, and that's learned, in your childhood. And if you don't have an understanding and a good handle on that relationship, that's going to create these bad habits and these belief systems that you have about money. And that's why you see these things recur, over. And it's a dangerous thing until you get to the root cause of your understanding your money story.
How do you help people do what apparently is hard to do, which is live within their means?
Well, there's a couple things that we do. One is when I work with my clients, I want to understand at the foundational level what their relationship with their money is. So we go through some exercises to understand what their money story is, what they learned growing up. If they look at money as a fear, or there's a lack, or there's a scarcity mindset, or if there's an abundance mindset, do they look at opportunities and possibilities being everywhere, or what is it that they've heard growing up? And that understanding of that foundation is a critical part, understanding what it is that is making them live above their means, because oftentimes when they're living above their means, it is connected to oftentimes an emotional trauma or an emotional situation. There's emotional spending, there's certain triggers that are happening that make them want to spend, and then they realize, oh shoot, that was a mistake, I shouldn't have done that. And it's this recurring thing over and over again. So it also, I mean, there's so many moving parts to that question, but one of that is the money story. The other piece is understanding their why. So if their why is, um, I want to have this item because I need to or want to prove to my neighbors or the world that I have more or am more or something, there is something going on in their heart, in their head, that is needing that affirmation from an outside source versus going, you know what, my financial freedom day and my financial peace of mind and my ability to give to my family and provide for my family is far more important than impressing the neighbors. Okay, that's going to help them focus and stay below their means and understand that, you know what, I want to live a peaceful life. I want to live a financially abundant life. And it's far more important for me to have that, and so I'm going to live below my means. I'm going to build my wealth for the long term so that I can either retire early or donate to a cause that I love, or take my family on a trip to Italy for a month, or whatever it is that feeds your heart. And that is part of your why. And that why is far greater and far more impactful than trying to impress the world or impress your neighbors that are living this certain life, when in fact you're not. So it's a lot of soul searching. There's a lot of internal work that needs to happen.
I agree with you. I know personally people in my own world who do this one thing, and we need to take a break real quick. And when we come back from this break, I want to talk about the reality of emotional spending
Mm,
where you're feeling badly, so you want to make yourself feel better. Um, at least this is my thoughts on it.
mhm.
You want to make yourself feel better, so you go out and buy something because in the moment you'll feel better, but then the bill comes and you no longer feel so good. We're
Right.
talking with Patti Handy, and she is a financial coach, and she helps people get through some of those things. And we'll be right back after these messages. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio on KKNW.
Do you need to boost your sales? Join our partnership program. Each quarter, we promote 10 partner businesses. What will you get? The company will produce one 30-second video for your business. Your website links on positivetalkradio.net and kmmedia.pro. One dedicated podcast or radio show per month. One video Instagram reel. One YouTube short. One 60-second clip for social media taken from your interview, and at least one commercial airplay per show. All podcast and video commercials are within the fabric of the show and will remain in the show forever. Visit kmmedia.pro to book a consultation today.
When you want to say more than words communicate, you can with flowers. Your custom boutique floral studio in Bothell, Washington is anaturaldesign.com, connecting you to nature through the language of flowers. Where your people are is where our flowers are beautiful. Your success is our goal.
For being our appreciated listener, you can use promo code PTR20 at checkout to receive 20% off your order.
anaturaldesign.com at your fingertips today.
We believe in the power of telling your stories. We want to help yours be seen and heard. At the Pacific Northwest Collaborative Magazine, our purpose is to connect you to your community. Let's begin by celebrating the accomplishments of local artists featured in this brand new digital magazine. Here, you can learn about opportunities to creatively come together and support our local community and neighbors through the gift of art and service. If your business or organization would like to take part in this magazine, message us on Instagram at pnw.collab. You can download our free digital magazine at KM Media Pro today.
Thank you to our dedicated fans. We are updating our live on-air schedule to make it super easy for you to hang out with us 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, and live on Fridays with Kixie 8:80 a.m. Seattle Live. You can find our library to binge all the podcast platforms. We can't wait to see you at 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, starting September 4th, Labor Day 2023.
And welcome back to Positive Talk, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald, and you're listening to Patti Handy. She is a financial coach, and she helps people kind of get their act together where it comes for money. And because it is, and by the way, just as an aside, if you have too much money, you can call me or email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro, and I'll be happy to take some of that off your hands for you so that you don't have to worry about having so much money. That's just a thought.
That's very generous of you.
Huh?
That's very generous of you.
Thank you very much. I'll take the responsibility and the burden of taking care of that money. Of course, you don't get it back, but that's beside the point. One of the things that I really want your opinion on, because as a financial coach, I'm sure you run into this a lot. I have somebody who's close to me who, when he's feeling depressed or feeling sad, and is or lonely, and he doesn't have anything to do, he'll go shopping. I've never understood that concept, but some people do this, and it's called emotional spending. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, it's very common, unfortunately. We call it retail therapy, and it is,
Yeah.
and it's a true, it's a real thing. And there is those triggers, and it really applies to what I'd mentioned before, which was the money story that we have and those limiting beliefs. So emotional spending is very common, and it's oftentimes a result of, like you said, um, sadness, depression, anxiety, oftentimes fear, sometimes even happiness. If something good happens and you wanted to go celebrate, which is wonderful, but um, it is a dopamine hit. It's a quick fix. It's like, oh gosh, I'm feeling sad today. I'm going to run to the mall. I'm just going to go window shop, and then suddenly you find something, and it's like, oh, this is great. Or today it's too easy to shop online, right? You jump on Amazon, and you can always fill your cart with all kinds of things. It's way too easy. It's made way too easy, and there's so many, with all the ads that comes through our social scrolls and everything else, it just makes it so easy to purchase. And the unfortunate thing is that when that bill comes, more times than not, there is a sense of remorse going, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Why on earth did I even do that knowing I couldn't pay for it? Now, having said that, if you are in a situation where you had something in your life that was a celebratory, like let's say you landed a new client, or you just celebrated some event, it's okay to reward yourself in a celebratory manner as long as it's not outside your financial comfort zone. If it's something that is, crazy expensive, that doesn't make any sense. And then you can afford it. If you have credit card debt and you're dealing with trying to get yourself out from underneath that debt, then no, you shouldn't be going and spending that. You can do other celebratory things that are rewarding. Um, but to your point, Kevin, it is very common. It is something that, and they actually have financial therapists. I'm not sure if you knew that, but
I
financial
didn't.
therapists, yeah, who actually go deep into the um, just the deep emotions and the deep feelings of what it is that's triggering that. But it is a very common problem, and there are certain things that I can do as a coach to help someone navigate that. And part of that is just to create an awareness and to be mindful of that situation. And then they have to want to change that. They have to be coachable and want to actually, improve in that area. And it's part being accountable to me and accountable to themselves in the process of that. But one of the things that I say is when they're in that mode, they're ready to purchase, or they're shopping or whatever. It's like, do I need this or do I want this? If I need it because I need it, then that's one thing. But if I want it just because I want it, you walk away, and then 3 days later you revisit it and go, do I really still want it? And is it worth the cost of my financial freedom day? Was it worth the risk to my end result of financial freedom at retirement, or taking care of my kids, or making sure I don't run out of money so my kids have to take care of me? Whatever it is that's in your world or going on in your particular situation. But you need to stop and process that. And that takes a very aware, mindful mindset to go through that, to break that habit. Now, if you have a shopping addiction, much like a gambling addiction, that's also something else. And that's where a financial therapist will probably be needed. Because an addiction is one thing, it's different than a dopamine hit because you just are feeling sad and you want to go buy something. So there is that separation.
And I would like to make this clear for everybody that department stores, car dealerships, other places where you can spend money, they're very well aware of this particular phenomenon. And they build some of their products and some of their offerings to make it seem you can buy this even though you don't need it. And it's painless because you can just get this credit card, you see, and we'll give you X number of dollars to put on that credit card. And then you just pay $10 a month. Oh, that's easy. But that's, again, they're setting you up to fail, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And when you go into those stores and they say, "Oh, get 10% off your purchase by opening this card," I always say, "No, thank you." You just have to politely decline every single time. Now, well, let me back I'll back up for 10 seconds. If you're purchasing a large ticket item, like you're buying a refrigerator that costs $2,000 because you need a refrigerator, like mine just died and I had to replace my refrigerator, which completely sucks, but I digress. But if you're buying a big ticket item and you're going to Home Depot and they're saying, we're going to give you 20% off your purchase today if you open a credit card, and you're going to save $400, okay, open that credit card and then pay the card off and then cut the card up. Don't close it because your credit history is important and you don't want to just open and close, but cut it up and don't use it. So if a situation is, around where you have to buy a very big ticket item and you're saving a lot of money, then maybe. But if you're at the department store and you're buying some clothes and you're going to save 10, $15, no, don't.
Well, and that's the other thing is that if you are spending that kind of money and then you have the ability to not use that credit card again, that's a good thing. And trust me, these department stores, they will close your credit card if you don't use it after a period of time. There's nothing
Yeah,
you can do.
yeah. Actually, even the Visa Mastercards, if you don't use it for a number of years, they will close your card. Yes, and that is unfortunate because that affects your credit history. 10% of your credit score is your credit history, and if they close the card, you lose all that history, which is unfortunate. So ideally, you don't want. That's why I say don't close cards. People say, "Oh, I'm gonna, close my cards. I don't use them anymore." I'm like, well, how old is it? Because if it's an older card and you have all that history, you don't really want to do that because you will see a dip in your score, most likely just temporarily, but you will see a dip in your score if you close your cards.
And talk about a little bit, if you would. We've talked a bit about your credit score, but your credit score really is an important piece of your history. Uh,
Mhm.
that as you said earlier, it can affect your employment. It can affect a whole different range of people that pull your credit score, and you might not even know it. And the other thing that I wanted you to talk about too is when you're co-signing with somebody else or
Mm.
something like that, they'll do what's called tell us the difference between a hard credit score pull and a where it doesn't hit your credit score.
It's a soft pull. Yeah. So if you are out shopping for a car and you're sitting with the finance guy, he's going to pull a hard credit. If you're buying a piece of furniture at a store, furniture store, and you're going to put it on credit, they're going to pull a hard credit. That's when you really get dinged on your score, especially if it's in a very short period of time. If you go to a car dealership and then a couple days later you go to a furniture store and then a couple days later you go to a department store, that's when your score goes down. Those are actually hard pulls. A soft pull is not one that's going to hurt your score. So you can go once a year to annualcreditreport.com and have your credit pulled and not affect your score at all. And you can see your credit report. And I do encourage people to do that because more times than not, when I was in the mortgage business, so many times we found errors on the credit reports that weren't theirs. There was errors on the on the credit report. They were charges, collections, various things that were not the client. So they needed time to unpack all that and fix all that. And that got very tricky when they're in the middle of escrow trying to buy a home. If it was refinance, it wasn't as big of an issue. But if you've got an escrow closing in 30 days, you don't have much time to fix that credit. So it becomes kind of chaotic. Which is why I say pull that credit, especially before you go looking for a home. Make sure there's no errors, make sure there's no mistakes, and understand what your score is. Make sure that it's all very accurate. But yeah, be very careful. Don't let anyone pull your credit unless it's absolutely imperative that they do that. And if you are car shopping, don't have them pull your credit until you absolutely positively know for sure that you are going to go through that credit bureau or that car dealership, and you're going to go through that finance guy. You're not going to buy it through your credit union, or you're going to not buy it through your bank and use their credit, because too many credit pulls are not good for sure.
So sometimes if you're like searching for a car and you may get to the point where you're sitting down with the financial guy and one of the things that he's going to do is pull your credit. Now, if you go to 2 or 3 or 4 different car dealerships because all you're doing is shopping at that point, you can get your credit score pulled 3 hard pulls 3 or 4 or 5 different times and in a short period of time. That's got to be
Yeah, you don't
detrimental.
want to do that. Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. If you go to annualcreditreport.com, pull your credit, get your credit score. Actually, there's a small fee to get your actual score. But if you go to that dealership and you say, I pulled my credit, my score is this, give me a price based on this. And when I decide to buy the car for sure from you, then I'll have you, then you can pull my credit. And then
Oh,
you can
that's
go to
smart.
each different, car dealership and say the same thing. But no one should pull, you should not have your credit pulled more than once when you know for, again, 100% certainty that you are going to be using that particular finance uh, company through that car dealership.
And so that it becomes part of the conversation that you should be having with your salesperson, which
Right.
is and when I'm pull the trigger and decide that this is the car I want and you're the dealership that I want, you can then pull the credit score, but not
Right.
until then.
Correct. Yeah. You definitely need to let them, you need to control that narrative with that person for sure. For sure. Now, something different when you're buying a home, oftentimes people will shop lenders for the best price. And a lender can't really give you a price or a rate, I should say, until they know what your credit looks like and what your credit score is. So in that situation, the credit bureaus know that you're not buying 3, 4, or 5 homes. And I wouldn't encourage you to shop that many lenders. If you want to shop, 2 or 3, in a perfect world, you find someone that you really like and you trust and and then you just go with them. But if you want to shop price, um, we use price in the as the term in the mortgage world. But when you feel on shop rate, and you have credit pulled, within a 2-week period of time by 2 or 3 different lenders, the credit bureaus look at that as one pull because they know that you're not going to buy 3 homes, that you're just rate shopping for a home. But if you do at a car dealership, you know, most likely you're not buying, 2 cars, but you might be. So they look at that individually.
Speaking of mortgages and home purchasing, there is really a big deal right now with the interest rates.
Oh
uh,
yeah.
because the interest rates 2 years ago were about 3%. And I heard on Friday that there's some of them that are at like 8%. Talk about how that 5% difference can affect the long-term price of your month to month payments.
Yeah, it has definitely been having an impact on the real estate market for sure. The the word is, and we don't know, I mean, I can't predict the future, nobody can, but the indications are that we're going to see the interest rates kind of come back a little bit over the next few years. So if you're taking out a loan today at 7 or 8%, you aren't necessarily stuck in that loan for 30 years. You can refinance that in a couple of years or a year from now when the rates come back down and then get back into a, 4, 5, 6, whatever the interest rates will be. There's no way to know where that's going to look like. But you're not stuck in that, situation for the term of your loan. But at the end of the day, you're looking at the payment. You're looking at what is the payment that I can make comfortably without being house poor that allows me to pay my other bills and have a life. And then you work backwards from there as to what the sales price is. How much home can I afford given this payment? If the interest rate is this, and this is the payment that I can afford based on this interest rate, that equates to a home purchase price of this. And then that's when you go looking for a home and you know what price point to stay in.
So now, Patty, if somebody wants to come work with you, is that some of the advice that you can give them, how to maintain a good credit score, how to be aware of some of the pitfalls that are out there, and they're put out there intentionally in some cases to deceive you, not necessarily illegally, but just worded in a way that makes it sound much better than it actually is. Is that some of the things that you are able to help people with?
Absolutely. Yeah, much of my conversations are about the rebuilding credit, building credit, staying on your credit game, also buying a home. And if you're buying a home on your own, and what does that look like, and what do lenders look for in terms of underwriting, I will help do some of that calculation for you. It's nice to have an independent third party who's not connected to the commission that a mortgage advisor will make. It's just here's the numbers and here's what makes sense, and here's the questions to ask your mortgage advisor. So yes, I absolutely work with them amongst the investing side and the money story side, and it's very holistic what I do with in terms of money coaching.
And we haven't even, that's a whole nother show if we're going to start talking about the stock market and that sort of thing. But I would like you to mention or just talk about the difference, because everybody's got a 401k these days.
Mhm.
And that may be the only way that you're funding your retirement, is to put money into your 401k, and hopefully your employer's matching a little bit of it, and
Yeah.
so that you can gain some. But there's a difference between a 401k, a straight 401k, and a Roth 401k or a Roth IRA. Can you explain the difference between those two?
Sure. A 401k is similar to a traditional IRA in that the tax consequences. So when you put money into your 401k at work, they give you a tax advantage today because you're not being taxed on that donation, if you will, a contribution to your 401k. And then if your employer matches it, it's free money. So you get a tax advantage today. When you go to pull it out at retirement, it is taxed as ordinary income. When you pull it out, it's ordinary income. And most people think, okay, that's great because usually when I retire, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. Well, you might be. We don't know where taxes or the tax brackets are going to be, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever it is when you're going to retire. So there's advantages today from doing this traditional 401k or a traditional IRA. A Roth is you are not getting any tax benefit today. There's no tax consequence or tax advantage today from that contribution to your 401k or to your Roth IRA. But when you pull money out, it's growing all these years tax free. And let me back up for 1 minute. On the regular 401k, it's growing tax deferred. So you're growing, 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 growing. It's all tax deferred. And when you pull it out, it's ordinary income. With a Roth, it's growing tax free. And when you pull it out, it's tax free. So you don't pay any tax on all that growth that you've had over the years. And the other caveat that's really important is that there is no, it's the short name is RMD. It's required minimum distribution. So right now at age 73, there is a RMD, which basically is the government saying, okay, you've been growing your money enough. We want some of our money back. They make you take money out of your regular IRA. And there's a calculation, it's kind of convoluted, but they require you to pull money out of the traditional IRA at age 73. With a Roth, there is no RMD. There's no requirement to pull money out. You can let that continue to grow as long as you want it to grow, and then give it to your kids, and they get it tax free. So a Roth is a beautiful thing. And within a company's 401k plan, if you have a Roth option, some companies offer that, some don't. But if you have a Roth option within the 401k, I would highly, highly suggest that you look at that. It's going to, somewhat depend on your current tax bracket. I mean, if you're in a super high tax bracket, it may make sense for you to go with a traditional. But talk to your CPA and have that conversation with them to determine which one makes most sense. But at the end of the day, a Roth 401k is a beautiful thing because all that's, again, growing tax free.
Well, and just as an aside, if you are in a better tax bracket and you're anticipating having more funds accumulate in your lifetime than you'll use, and then inheritance, because you mentioned that inheritance comes into play, and so it's better for the kids to be able to get the Roth IRA because the taxes are already taken out of it, and
It's
so it
tax.
becomes less of a problem for them. Is that right?
Well, it's growing tax free. Yeah, they will basically inherit those balances that account tax free.
Yeah.
So there's no taxes to be paid, whereas it's ordinary income on a traditional 401k or traditional IRA situation. That's taxed as ordinary income, which is your higher tax bracket.
So that makes sense if you're going to do that. I hope that helps. I hope that clears up some information for somebody. But there's a lot more that we need to go into and discuss. If someone would like to get in contact with you, is your website the best way to do that?
Yes, it's just Patti Handy. It's Patti with the I, so PattiHandy.com. And there's a contact page where there is a calendar on there. And if you want to book a call, I do offer a complimentary 30-minute conversation. But the website will give you all kinds of information as to what I offer. I do one-on-one coaching, and I also I have an online curriculum in there as well, Minding Her Money.
And you also have a ebook that you have set aside for people to get, and it's only 3 payments of 500. No, I'm kidding.
The ebook is free.
It's free. How could you do that? That can't be right.
Yes, it's a free ebook. It's Women Soaring Solo. It's a financial guide, and it's it's on the homepage. You just scroll down a little bit and you download it right there. And then there's a short training. It's a master class that I did. I did a 5-day master class, and I condensed it into a 35-minute video. So there's a short training afterwards as well, with some great information that I talk about on the money story and some other techs and investing strategies and stuff. So great training to watch, and that's all free.
Perfect. And thank you for giving our listeners something back. We really appreciate it. And don't let money defeat you. And what I mean by that is don't hide from it. It's not all that complicated. If I can figure a lot of it out, it ain't that complicated, trust me. But it is important that you take care of yourself so that, and you said this again, I'm, getting a little bit more seasoned as I go along. And I want to make sure that I have enough funds in my scattergun, if you will, to be able to take care of myself and not have to rely upon my children to take care of me, because they got their own things going on.
Yes. One of the most common things I hear from ladies is, I don't want to run out of money and be a burden on my kids. That's one of the top fears.
Yeah, and so it behooves you to really have somebody look at your stuff and to see where you're at and to give you some safe, depending upon where you are. I mean, if you're 30, you can throw heck to the wind and you can invest in a lot of different stuff. But if you are getting to be, in your 60s and you need to take care of your finances and set yourself up for the retirement years, going to a financial coach would be a really good idea, don't you think?
I would agree with you. Yes, and what we do in our 20s and 30s will set us up for either an earlier retirement, a more successful retirement. Those habits are going to be so imperative. So, yeah, sit down with a financial coach, get those things in place, and just get empowered with that knowledge.
I just got a couple of seconds left, and I'm not going to burn you with this. And you can tell me, go fly a kite, mister. I'm not going to even talk about this at
Okay.
all. And that
Okay.
is, I've had people say, if you buy this new thing, it's called a Bitcoin, and you can get rich from buying Bitcoins. And I said, well, what's the value based on? What do you mean? Well, it's got to have some value of something. Well, no, it's just the value of the Bitcoin. It's like, well, and they can't tell me. And so
Yeah.
I don't personally, and you don't have to say a thing. I don't recommend doing that.
Yeah, I always say that if you cannot explain a particular investment product to a fourth grader, you shouldn't be investing in it yourself. And I don't think anyone can explain what a Bitcoin or crypto is clearly and succinctly. And if you feel like you want to just dabble in it, take whatever money that you know you can afford to lose, like you're going to Vegas, and just assume you're going to lose it. And if you're comfortable losing that money, if it's $500 and you want to throw it at Bitcoin, go for it. But only if you can afford to do that and know that if you're okay with losing it, then fine. That's like a trip to Vegas. I don't encourage it, but if that's something that you just want to get your toe wet in, then Put in only what you can afford to lose.
That's why I don't go to Vegas either. Because, when you're gambling or when you're doing something like that, look at it this way. How long, if you're working your normal job, how many hours are you going to have to work to make that $500 back?
Right.
And
Yeah.
and that might give you an idea of what you shouldn't do.
Yeah. We work too hard for our money.
That's darn right. We work too hard for our money. Patti Handy, thank you so much for being here. Go to pattyhandy.com. Talk to her. She knows what she's talking about, and she can help you out. So I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you, Kevin. It was wonderful. I appreciate you having me.
You betcha, and you'll need to come back because finances are something that we all can learn more about.
I'll be back.
Very good. And by the way, this is Positive Talk Radio. We'll be back Wednesday at 4 p.m. and then Friday at noon and then at 3. So hope you'll stay with us for those. And by the way, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. We'll see you Wednesday at 4.